been a week since the news broke that only a month after the season finale of The Acolyte on Disney Plus, it has been canceled. No season 2 for Leslie Headland and the cast and crew of The Acolyte, and rightfully so. This was the biggest failure we've ever seen for a Disney Star Wars show, and that's saying a lot considering some of the garbage they've put out over the past decade. And despite the fact that in that week, the mainstream media has done everything they can to gaslight people into believing that this is just such a terrible decision. How could they do something like this? It's all those crazy fans' fault, those toxic fans. They're the reason that this got canceled, with some outlets even saying you shouldn't cancel it simply because it was made by a lesbian, simply because of the diversity and representation. It doesn't matter how much money it lost for Disney. It doesn't matter how few people actually watched it. No way you should ever cancel something like this. And that led the handful of people that did actually like The Acolyte, because they do exist. They're out there. Now, a lot of them are the pronouns in bio crowd, the crowd that actually doesn't care about storytelling. They only want to see diversity and representation so they can see themselves on screen and tell whatever fanfic they want in their heads. Those people decided to fight back. They've started a petition. We have to save The Acolyte. But unfortunately for them, reality is finally coming around and biting them in the ass. Despite their claims that Disney and Lucasfilm, they just listen to that awful side of the fan base that's very loud, but there's not very many of them. You know, people that actually want great stories. Well, now we're getting some more news about The Acolyte and what went down. Details on why The Acolyte was canceled. 1, cost a lot of fucking money for not a lot of content. It cost $630,000 per minute of screen time. That is a lot. Now, in comparison, something like Andor, which also costs a lot of money, 12 episodes of Andor for $250 million, but that had a runtime of around 8 hours in totality. So it's probably close to around $500,000 per minute of screen time for something like Andor. It's actually a little bit cheaper per minute than The Acolyte. But the main root cause at the core, according to these reports, is just what so many of us have said the entire time. No one was watching it. Viewership was low and tanked. It went down after the first 2 episodes significantly. The people that did decide to give it a shot, they didn't like it and they didn't come back for more. And that really is the problem. When you look at something like Andor, we'll bring that up again. Andor did not have a great premiere when you do look at those viewership numbers. But the difference with Andor and some of these other Disney Star Wars shows, the viewership actually went up, and up. And by the end, it had double the amount of people watching it that The Acolyte did by the finale. That's why they would continue on with the season 2. They'd already planned for the season 2 from the beginning. But for The Acolyte, despite that they were ready to make plans, despite that as late as January and February, they were assembling, seeing who would be possible to have in a writer's room for a writer's team for season 2 of The Acolyte. Then the show actually came out, and they realized there's not any fucking demand. No one is watching this bullshit. And we did also get the word, no plans to remove the series from Disney Plus. Now, there were some people speculating that maybe they could just Willow this thing, like they did with the terrible show Willow, season 1. Then it got canceled, and then it actually got removed from Disney Plus so they could use the entire thing as a tax write-off. And the fact that no one watched this show, the fact that it has low viewership, that might come as a surprise to some of these weirdos and freaks out there that are begging for it to be canceled, because they gaslit themselves into thinking that their little Twitter, their social media echo chamber actually represents people. It doesn't. It doesn't represent the general viewing audience, and we knew this for a long time. Star Wars The Acolyte disappeared from Nielsen charts as viewership hits an all-time low. We were documenting this throughout the release of The Acolyte. It was clear and obvious. It wasn't charting for over half of its run. But apparently this is a wake-up call for some, and now this is the way they've decided to cope with things like this. Why should I bother watching new shows if they'll just cancel them after 1 season if they don't perform well? What the fuck is performing well these days, by the way? Did they really expect The Acolyte to become a gigantic success like House of the Dragon after only 33 days on the platform? Hashtag The Acolyte. Is it really a surprise to you that companies would see something that has incredibly low viewership, that people aren't interested in, that people didn't watch, and decide not to do more of that thing? Is that a shock to you? What kind of sense does this make? Why should I bother watching new shows if they'll cancel them after 1 season if they don't perform well? Yes, if a show doesn't perform well, it should be canceled. And the comparison to House of the Dragon is literally retarded. House of the Dragon, when it premiered back in 2022, had the biggest premiere that I ever had on HBO Max. It drew 10 million people in the first day. And by the end of the week after the premiere of House of the Dragon, I think around 25 million people had watched that episode. And that's around what they average, the 25, 26, 27 million people viewing each episode. That total would be around a week after each subsequent release of the episodes. So, no, you can pretty easily tell after a month of this thing being out completely and totally whether people are interested or not. People were not interested in The Acolyte. We told you that the entire time. You fucking retards didn't want to listen. That's on you. That's why you're so disappointed right now. But there it is, the reality behind why The Acolyte was canceled. Nothing to do with those YouTubers saying mean things about the show, and everything to do with the fact that nobody fucking watched it. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.